Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Alhamdulillah, today we can join the 3-in-1 series that held by Economics Department, Faculty of Economics and Business Universitas Brawijaya. And welcome to Farhad. Thank you for joining this session and giving us your time to be the speaker, and we can do the discussion today about the gig workers, an opportunity or a challenge. As we know, participants, that gig worker right now is a hot issue in the labor market. And I think you all, as the students, and after you graduate from our university, you will be a gig worker, or no, you are not interesting. You're not interested to be gig workers. That's why we invite Farhad to have the session with us, so we can discussion whether gig worker is good for us or not. So as the young generation, we can decide to work in gig job or not. So please, without any further ado, I welcome Farhad to have the session.
Hello, good morning. Assalamu alaikum. I'm Farhat, and I have done my bachelor's in economics, then my master's in human resource management, and presently I'm working as a doctoral student at XLRI Jamshedpur, India. It is a premier B school in India. So our topic of discussion today is gig workers, an opportunity or a challenge for the coming generations, right? So the flow of the presentation today will be like this, that we'll be first trying to know that who are gig workers and what is gig work. Because like many people are even confused today that how can we differentiate between platform workers and gig workers, right? Then we'll be discussing how is gig work operationalized. And then we'll try to compare this situation with the situation of early industrial evolution era. And then the categories of platform workers will be discussed. The job quality of gig workers will also be discussed then, and the influence of gig work. How is it actually propagating a lot? We can see in our nations that gig work is actually like spreading like anything. And the effects of gig economy, then we'll be talking about India and Indonesia, because I'm from India and you people are from Indonesia. So we'll be trying to discuss the narratives from each of these nations, and then we'll be trying to see that what can how the situation can be like brought to help. Can unionism, can collectivism help the workers in gig economy? And very briefly we'll discuss the global aspect of this particular situation. So starting with the first like introduction, what is gig work and who are gig workers? So the gig economy is an evolving labor market situation in which organizations engage independent workers for short-term contracts known as gigs, often by connecting workers to customers by means of a platform-enabled digital marketplace. So like researchers have defined gig economy in this way. Talking about gig workers, so the Merriam and Webster dictionary has defined it as a person who works in temporary jobs, typically in the service sector as an independent contractor or a freelancer, right? So individuals offering their service on a part-time or casual basis to any organization are briefly known as a gig worker. So like a question is arised that since gig workers are offering their service on a part-time basis, they are not following any routine, they are not going to office 9 and coming at back at 5 in the evening, so they can go and work anytime. So what do you feel, that is it a kind of freedom, or because there are lack of opportunities in job market that people are forced to join this kind of work? So we'll be getting these aspects with the following slides. Now, how is gig work operationalized? The slow economic growth and hence low employment levels in the early 2008 and 9 is said to be its beginning. So we all are aware of the fact that there was a global economic recession during 2008 and 9. And after that, a lot of people were fired, they were laid off. And as a result, each and every nation faced the issue of unemployment. So gig work came into being after that. And how did technology help in propagation of gig work? That connectivity became very easy after like 2008-9. Connectivity, because we having a class, I am sitting in India and you people are there in Indonesia, would not have been possible around like 20 years back. But now connectivity is so easy. So the connectivity and the sharing economic model has helped the progress of gig economy a lot. Now, what is sharing economic model? Like I own a car, okay? And if I am using that car for any gig work, my personal asset is being used for the organization, right? So these kind of sharing economic model became very fashionable. So asset of an individual and their families can be rented or utilized for the service, and that helped gig economy a lot. And the niche of it is based on the practices like crowd work and platforms like Amazon MTurk. So what is crowd work? I'm sure you people might have heard about just-in-time inventory, right? So just-in-time inventory is something that Taiichi Ohno, who had invented for Toyota production system, where like they have various techniques to implement it, like 5S model. Have you heard about 5S model? So what does 5S model do? So it has Sairi, Saitu, Saiketsu, Shitsuke, where Sairi is sorting out the inventory which is required only at that time. So that is known as just-in-time inventory technique. Now, what have these corporate organizations did? That they have, like actually ironically, they have used this for workflows for the human being, that just in time they need certain like workforce to work for them. They will take their service and the rest of the time they'll not be responsible for them. They will not be concerned about them. So this kind of force work has been in fashion in the gig work. The work execution by large number of people, and this is possible because a lot of people are involved in it, where each one has a small role to play, and the digital marketplace helps both the employer and the service provider, right? If you're like booking a cab in any service, right, what do? The app helps you book the cab. That apps intimate the drivers, and it also lets you know that when he or she is arriving. So with the help of a basic app, this kind of economy can run very smoothly. So as a result of it, what is happening? There is no marketplace required. There is no brick and mortar store required. Only what has happened, that transaction cost has been lowered to, like it has been minimized to something that one couldn't imagine before. So can anyone say that what are the observations from this? What kind of like work do you think is gig work? Anyone? After knowing the introduction that what is gig work and how it is operationalized, can anyone share that what do you feel about gig work? What are your observations about gig work? Anyone in the student? So we can compare this situation with the age-old scientific management technique. Okay, this has not been displayed in any study. It is my individual observation. And what is happening is, like in scientific management technique, what did F.W. Taylor do? He divided the work. He made it possible that each worker will be playing a small role and they will be paid as per piece rate work system. Okay. And what was the perspective of workers? They were only considered as mere cog of machines. They were considered part of machine. They were not considered human beings. Similar situation has been arising in gig economy, where every individual involved in it has to play a small role, and then they are paid according to the piece they have worked, and then they disperse. So what, from the industrial evolution age, if we compare F.W. Taylor, what did he do? He divided the work into pieces, time and motion study. It was called time and motion study, right? Similarly, we are seeing this as a digitalized time and motion study, where digital technology is helping you divide the work. Technology is helping you a piece rate system where people are paid according to the piece of work they are doing. So this is a comparison which I thought, so is it something like that are we going back to the situation where human beings were only considered as part of machine? Because after scientific management, there were various bureaucratic theories studied in the management. Then it was realized that no, people can't be compared with machinery. They are not machine parts. They have emotions. They have well-being to be seen. Okay. So Elton Mayo's experiment, you might have heard about in human relations theory. Slowly and steadily, it was thought that no, people are emotional beings. They have emotions. But again, in this gig economy kind of situation, we are returning back to a piece rate system where people are not considered human beings. They are only given work to be done, and they are paid as per the piece of work done. So this is an observation. Next, talking about the categories of platform work. We have been observing that a software engineer is also a platform worker sometimes, and a gig worker is also a platform worker. But the situation of the two jobs are far, far different, right? So we will first categorize platform workers, and we'll try to study from the aspect of Wallace and Scholars study in 2020. And they have divided platform workers into three categories. The first one is independent contractors, then the cloud-based consultants, and the third category is gig workers. Okay. So independent contractors, skilled technologists, platform architects, and designers of platforms are known as independent contractors. You can consider them sometimes even entrepreneurs, people designing the app, right? They are known as independent contractors in platform work. Then you have cloud-based consultants, where very specialized digital labor is given in exchange of salaries. Like many software engineers of India are working for US firms, right? UK firms. What is happening? They are sitting in India working for organizations and MNCs who have their parent organization in US. So these kind of services are also known as platform worker. And the third category for which we are concerned about is the gig worker. Their services are engaged through platforms and are generally performed offline. So this is the major difference from the earlier two and the third one. The first two were done online maybe, or even offline, then going to a particular office and doing it. But this gig work is done offline, and that too at customers' place. Maybe like as in ride hail, food delivery, home repair, care work, and others. So this is the difference between a gig worker and a platform worker. As our topic today is gig work and gig workers, so we will try to know the job quality of gig workers. How is their job quality? The psychological aspect, the sociological aspect, the economic aspect of gig workers' job. So first of all, it is known that job quality as a construct has been viewed as different in different domains. Okay, so economists view job quality as an extrinsic reward angle. Okay, and psychologists view it as employee well-being. The sociologist views it to be intrinsically driven motive. So job quality is also seen from three angles. Okay, so therefore it is a multi-dimensional construct. Broadly speaking, economic security, enjoyment for well-being, and autonomy in job are the three major dimensions of job quality. So this is about job quality. Then we'll know how is the job quality of a gig worker. The three dimensions of job quality are broadly economic, then enjoyment from the psychological aspect, and autonomy from the sociological aspect. So we will now see each of these three components for the gig worker. For a gig worker, how is the economic security? Okay, so economic security is something which is in form of pay, income variability, and economic risk, right? So typically, gig work involves bulk of service providers remunerated on a piece rate basis. So we have seen that they are a kind of piece rated workers. The amount of work they are doing, they are paid only for that. And then they are not considered employees of the organization. This has been focused by a lot of researchers, that gig workers are never considered employees of an organization. They are even connoted as agents, they are termed as partners, but they are never termed as employee of an organization. So independent contractor also, they are told as you are the contractor of yourself. You are coming and selling your job, so you are the contractor. So independent contractor connotes that workers carry all the risk in the labor process. So as a result, what is happening, because I am the one who is responsible for my job, so I'll be the only one who is like responsible for any shortcomings of the job as well. The nature of the work, the stress involved in it, the fatigue, the hazard, the risk, all this has to be borne by me, not by the organization. And that too, in most of the nations, there is no legal coverage for the gig worker. Okay, so the amount of stress what I am facing by doing a gig work is only my stress. It has nothing to do for the organization I'm working. So all of such exposure weakens the economic security. So can you say that the job quality of a gig worker is economically secure? No, absolutely not. Economically, they are not secure, because the amount of risk which they have to bear is really out of like imagination. Next, the psychological aspect we'll see that, does gig worker enjoy their work? Are they actually enjoying their work? So say for example, if I am a driver of any Uber or any platform based worker, then the rides, the delivery and reaching of destination will give me some socialization aspect as well. I can talk to the customer. If I'm treated well, I can get some amount of enjoyment in the work. Okay. But that enjoyment will not be like permanent, because the externalities like weather condition, the erratic behavior of customers are all unpredictable. I am not knowing that the person for whom I'm going to deliver the food, he or she will actually help me in the like, for example, not helping me by their own, but will they even greet me well? Will they even consider me human beings? I'm not sure about it. So further, the desire to earn more. Also, when I have the flexibility that I can complete 5 rides in a day, or I can deliver 6 like food delivery items, then what? It is at the cost of my enjoyment. Okay. Either I have to work a lot and forget about my enjoyment, or if I'm enjoying my work, then my salary will increase, because I'll only be paid for the work done. So my enjoyment component is also very, very low at the work. So can someone really enjoy their work in such circumstances? It is a question, right? Now, third, autonomy. This was the sociological aspect. The third aspect was autonomy in the job quality. Are gig workers given autonomy in the job? So, what happens is that everyone tells that if you are a gig worker, you have flexibility. You don't have any routinized work that you have to follow any routine. You have to go early in the morning in the office and then come out in the evening. It is nothing like that. You can work as per your own choice. You can follow the routes as you want. Like for delivery, you are not told that you have to follow only a certain path. You can follow any route. Okay. You can also like refuse to have any ride. Like for example, you're booking a cab, the driver may choose to pick up you, or he or she can even like refuse to take that ride, right? So all these rosy pictures and sugar coated kind of situation is shown for a gig worker, that you are free, you can do anything, you can work anytime at what time you want. But such rosy pictures are actually there in the present in the actual scenario or not? That is a big question. It is the platform that recurrently sets and changes the pay rates and service fees. Now, I being a gig worker cannot decide that this will be my pay charges of the day. I'll go and deliver the food item and this will be my charge. I am not able to do so. It is the platform through which I am connected. That platform will decide that how much I will be paid. Okay, and the how much will be the service charges. Then the apps that allocate and govern the work largely control and direct the labor process, reducing the autonomy of the gig worker. I may choose to work my working hours. I may choose to work between 5 p.m. to 8 p.m., but my pay charges are not in my hands. It is the platform that is deciding. So, do I enjoy autonomy in my job? Does a gig worker enjoy autonomy? No, not actually. Now, the gig worker also has the responsibility to be a very efficient employee. Okay, they have to be close to the customer's location. They have to be fast for like delivery. They have to be satisfactory for the customers. For all these like services, they are rated, right? We have on the apps, we can rate them that yes, the service charge, the service boy was good, so I'll rate him 5-star, or not, then I'll not rate him. So if I am doing such a job, is anything in my hands? Do you think that I am the one who's like enjoying my job and having a full autonomy in my job? I don't think so. a gig worker even has autonomy in the job. Please ponder upon it. So the three job quality aspects were economic, psychological, and the sociological, which leads to autonomy. So does a gig worker has a high say in any of these dimensions? And we have seen no, none in all of these three aspects. The gig worker has a very, very minimal say. So how we can judge that the quality of job is really poor for the gig workers. But now we have to find the answer to the question that since gig workers, they are actually, they have a lot to bear. Their job quality is really poor. They don't enjoy autonomy in their job. They don't have economic security as well. Then why is gig work so common? Okay, why is gig work so common? Why people are employed in it? If it is such giving such a poor quality work-life balance for the employee, because it is a growth contributor, right? Every nation is like most of the developing nations where labor, we have a lot of population who are which are unemployed. So it provides employment and therefore revenue is generated for the nation. And specifically in developing nations like India and Indonesia, it is there that is providing employment opportunities. So rather than being sitting at home, you will want to work, right? And that too in a situation because these developed nations don't have social security as well. So we being like, we don't have a strong social security, so we will be employed in such jobs. And also we have seen that there are no transaction costs involved in it. Only an app can help me give my service and help the customer get their work done. Also, it helps me do my job as per my family needs. So we have seen there are many female and women employees in gig economy because they have the flexibility to work as per their family needs. Okay. And also there are some people who have taken gig work as their secondary profession. They can work part-time for extra income in a gig economy kind of situation. So we see it is very, very common these days. And also there are some people who are searching for jobs. So what is happening is, for the time being, they consider till I get a good job, I'll work as a gig worker. So at least I'm earning my living. So all these situations helps gig work to become so common, and it has propagated a lot, despite it being a non-worker friendly industry or sector. Now we'll try to discuss the gig economy effects. So first of all, on the laborers, right, on the gig worker, they have low wages, no employee protection as per legal aspect is there in most of the nations. The tips they used to get earlier has also faded away because of these platform coming in, and they are forced to work in odd timings, right? Because any point of the day, if you want to book a cab, you can do so, and even at night, at late night. So laborers are forced to work in odd hours. What happens, like somebody will not come and force you, but it will be like at odd hours you'll be paid maybe more. So a poor guy, he will think that if I work on an odd hour, I'll be paid more. So in that way their work is forced, right? Then secondly, for consumers, okay, how is gig economy helping the consumers? Convenience, in say of convenience, Like I order any necessity of my life today, and tomorrow it is at my doorstep. In that way, it is really convenient to me. But what is happening is I only see the picture quality of any product, right? Maybe I haven't seen it with my eyes and touched it with my hands. So it may be of lower quality, the good and service, right? Even sometimes it happens that I don't get any good, good in the sense I don't feel secure traveling alone in a Uber cab, right? Maybe I'm scared that what kind of driver he or she is. So in that sense, consumers are also like they are also the one who are suffering. And also cheap quality products and services, because what is happening is that whatever I see online, if I'm buying that maybe the quality of the product, I'm not like I'm not the one who's actually seeing it. So maybe I'm landing up with a poor quality product. Then third, industry as a whole. So increased concentration of wealth at the investor level. What is happening? Who is the one who is gaining a lot in gig economy situation? Or is it the gig workers? Not actually. We have seen their job quality is really poor, right? So it is the investors and entrepreneurs of these platforms. We have seen a lot of startups coming in, right? And they are coming up and they are forming their IPO, and they are like we have seen that people are becoming millionaires, billionaires in their early 30s, and all these kind of situations have evolved because there is a lot of startup climate, right? So who is the one actually benefiting? It is the entrepreneurs who are benefiting out of this situation. And corporate consolidation also. What is happening? There are big business houses and conglomerates, right? So in India, we have Tatas, we have Reliance. All these are big industrialists, big conglomerate organizations. And what they are doing, they were into like very brick and mortar kind of situation. They were not the one who were like used to platform economy. Now, as a result, what do? They start mergers and acquisition for, like they start buying startups, and they have a big, they are becoming like, it is the one, the wealth is being consolidated in hands of big industrialists as a result of gig economy. So we see it is the industrialists and big business houses who are the ones who are getting rich and richer. So rich is getting richer and the poor is getting poorer. That is the situation. And the food items as well. There are certain restaurants, their service has been stopped. There are brick and mortar stores. Like if you might be aware that there are some like shopping complexes, malls there outside your like locality. Because of these online situation, they have also suffered a lot. Their businesses are not running because consumers, they are ordering things online. So it is the brick and mortar store which is actually like suffering. And also the small producers. Now we have seen the big industrialists, they are the ones who are making a lot of money. But what about the small producers, the medium and small scale industries? It is difficult for them to make profit. Then if they were not into technology platforms, they have to acquire, otherwise they will perish. If they are not working on platform based economy, nobody is taking their service. So they are forced to use technology. And also loss of control for the business. Now we have seen big conglomerates, big organization, big business corporate houses, they are buying smaller startups. Okay, so small producers are the ones who are actually, they are suffering because of that. So this is the overall effect of gig economy. So till now, does anyone has any doubt or any like observation? Can anyone share that gig worker is like suffering, or they feel that no, gig work is flexible, so it is helpful for the employees? Does anyone want to share their observation?
Dear participant, you can open your mic and you can deliver anything.
So these students, they are graduate or undergraduate students?
I think most of them are the undergraduate one, and but we have
Okay.
the postgraduate students.
Okay, fine, fine. So students, do you feel that gig economy is actually helpful, or gig workers are the ones who are suffering? Anyone wants to share anything? Okay.
Michael has maybe. Yeah, I'm showing the name and I know the students like Michael Hans. Maybe you can share the answer, or Shahdana. But our student is
Okay.
so shy to answer. I'm sorry.
Not answer, like any observation anyone has. Do you want to share any story? You might have used this, right? App-based services. So anyone wants to share anything?
Go, students. You can share anything about the gig worker and how's you see the gig worker in Malang, for example, in our town.
So do you feel that gig economy is actually a return of some kind of like a very machinery, and like things like people are not considered human beings, right? Because this was the era of industrial revolution started, where people were considered part of machine and they were not considered human beings. So similar situation is now, it is arising now. So do you feel that, is it actually coming back, or do you feel no, it is a flexible kind of situation, people can work as per their convenience, so it is helpful for a worker?
Yeah. So Farhad, can I give my opinion, just representative
Sure,
of
sure.
this?
Sure.
Yes, so actually in my point of view, gig worker, it can help our economy. I mean, everyone who has digital skill, they can work anywhere. And as my observation, my personal observation, the one who are interesting to work in the gig job, most of them thinks that they can get the money and then they can take a rest, they can do the holiday while they're working.
Okay.
So our student right now, their age is around 20 years old. They think they not think to have home. They don't think to have the investment, but they think how to go around the world to do traveling and have, and they can share the stories in Instagram or share in the YouTube, something like this. So it is if you gig worker is have a big opportunity to absorb our generation. So it will decrease our employment and also decrease our poverty. But on the other hand, Farhad, I have other idea that because of gig worker career is not certain, right? So sometimes, yes, they can cut us as their worker easily because no contract. and we don't have the development career, so we have to prepare ourselves, I mean our finance very well, and we have also we have to prepare our pension fund, for example. So it's kind of bad and good things in my point of view. Thank you.
True. Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you, Asna, for sharing your views.
Yes, my pleasure.
Yeah. So as now we have known about what gig work is, the quality of job that they are doing, and what is the effect of gig economy. So we discuss how gig work is like functioning in India first, and then we'll also see the case example of Indonesia. So taking the case example of India, Indian economy is an example of service dominant economy, right? What happened in India was like the Cuisinet's hypothesis didn't work as per the sectoral division in India. What happened was from agriculture, direct, the services took over and the manufacturing sector didn't develop as it should have been. And so the contribution of manufacturing sector, both in terms of employment and in terms of GDP share, has been really low in India. Both these services has played a big major role for Indian economy. And if we talk about agriculture, what happened was, for like as Cuisinet had hypothesized, that for any economy, first of all, it is dependent on agricultural sector. Then the manufacturing takes place, and manufacturing has a big share in it, and then the services sector takes the that a large workforce was there in agriculture, but the productivity was really very low. So a kind of disguised unemployment took place. So slowly and steadily, manufacturing couldn't play a major role. So services had to take all the burden. And all the more around 1990s, what happened that the foreign cash reserve was really low in India. And also none of the nations were ready to help India with like exchange of dollars. So India had to mortgage a lot of gold, and then IMF came and it told that it will help India only under certain circumstances, when there will be some structural reformation that will take place in India. So in 1991, what happened, Indian economy went through a major change. It was liberalization, privatization, and globalization took place for the Indian economy. So we can tell that from being from a kind of autarkic nation, India started opening up. It became an open economy. As a result, a lot of MNCs, they came into India. And what did they give? They gave a lot of employment opportunities into Indian workforce. And the situation was like this, that India's counterparts like China and other nations, they were not so fluent in English. So the English speaking like population of India were employed in basically works like back offices and BPOs, IT enabled sector. So a lot of people were employed because of these situations, and hence the services sector took the initiative, and both in terms of employment and GDP share, it really helped India a lot. And we had seen the definition of gig economy, right? So according to the dictionary, a gig worker is a person who works in temporary jobs, typically in a service sector. So as India is largely dependent on service sector, so gig economy or gig work is quite inevitable in India. It has to take place. So this is the data of gig economy in India. It has been taken from multiple sources, and like Niti Aayog of India is there. It has helped me to get this data, and some of my colleagues, they had prepared some report on this. So this is the overall demography of the gig work in India. 78% of population working in gig work is 40 years or less. So we can see a younger generation being involved in gig work, and they work for around 7 hours a day on an average. 71% senior secondary, they have been educated till senior secondary or above level. Also, 40% of them are involved in low skill category. So this is also a question mark, that can gig workers actually develop in their careers? Can there be some progression? All of them are doing a low skill job. So is there any future prospect for them? And around 32% of people employed in gig economy in India are primarily have taken this as a primary source of their livelihood. 32% of them. So they have no other jobs. It is only the gig work on which they are surviving. And also, very interestingly, 30% of female are involved in it. As we have seen, that you can work as per your family needs. Your work is flexible as per your timings, you can work. So female employees are also there. And around 13,000 to 16,000, they are earning in Indian currency. And when it is coming to social security, it is like equivalent to zero. No labor law covers them. They have no social security. So that is the actual situation. Coming to the legal coverage of gig workers in India. So it is not that India doesn't have labor laws. We have multiple plethora of labor laws. There are so many labor laws that people are not even aware of it. But the irony of the situation is, despite of having so many labor laws, no one law has a provision for platform workers. Okay, and to combat this, the government has formed labor codes recently in 2020. The Code on Social Security 2020, Section 2 of 35 defines a gig worker, because none of the law had taken gig worker as definition. Every law had defined employees, and that was the perspective of employer in gig economy, that they never call their workers as employees. Why? Because if they start calling them employees, they have to give them also benefits. So that is a clever part played by the organization, that they never call a gig worker an employee. So this social security code has defined a gig worker as a person who performs work or participates in a work arrangement and earns from such activities outside of traditional employer-employee relation. Because in gig economy, the worker is either considered as a contractor, individual contractor for himself or herself. They are not considered employee. So this code has been brought to define gig work as a person who performs or work or participates in a work arrangement and earns from such activities, which is outside the traditional employer-employee relationship. The code provides for social security benefits as well. As we have seen that the coverage of workers, gig workers, is zero. Social security is zero for any gig worker. So for that, the government has formed the code. Under the code, the central government has the power to frame welfare schemes for workers in unorganized sector, right? It is not a formal sector. So accidental insurance, life and disability cover, old age protection, health and maternity benefits, creche are all to be provided for a gig worker. But will it be actually helpful? That is a big question. So here we come. That does it actually, or will it actually help the workers? Issue with so there are basic issues involved with this code, because no labor law covered them. Code was brought to cover these workers. Now, platform workers can claim the benefits provided under Social Security Code, but cannot claim labor rights. Okay, they have no labor rights because they are not the employee of the organization. They are not entitled to go to court for a stable and better pay package or against the algorithms used by the platforms that allocate jobs to them. Now, what is the situation if you are in a traditional employer-employee situation? You are the one who can go to labor court as well. You have arbitration, you have conciliation, conciliator, conciliating officer. All these aspects are there when you are in a traditional employer-employee situation. But when you are a gig worker, you cannot go to any court as well. The eligibility criteria for claiming benefits might lead to certain workers being excluded. Now, they have defined gig worker, but it doesn't cover each and every worker. The code states the provision of basic welfare measures as a joint responsibility of the central government, platform aggregators, and workers. However, it does not state which stakeholder is responsible for delivering what quantum of welfare. Now, who will be the one who will be providing the benefits? That has not been mentioned. So, what is the use of it? Some opine that there is an overlap in the definition of unorganized gig and platform workers. Now, we have seen that there are certain platform workers who are far different from gig workers. A software engineer who's working a huge remuneration, a big salary, is also a platform worker, and an offline gig worker is also a platform worker. So how the definition in the code is same for both of them? So will it help the poor gig worker? Actually, this makes it unclear how schemes specific to these categories of workers will apply. So we are actually questioning this code as well, that will it actually help the workers? There seems to be a duality of appropriate government. Now in India, we have a central government, and then each state has their own state government, right? So who is the appropriate authority to pay the welfare, to pay for the benefits of the gig worker has also not been defined. So what is the use of such code? That is in question. So this people joining from India might have come across this tweet. This is a tweet from a delivery guy from a platform based on food delivery. This is Swiggy is a food delivery app in India. and this was shared across all social media sites, on Facebook, on Twitter, on Instagram, and I had personally come across this on LinkedIn. So this was a worker, a Swiggy, a gig worker, who told that Swiggy is the app's name. That particular app calls us delivery partners. Okay, so in like people will be happy that yeah, I'm being called partner, but I'm not being called employee. That is the actual like difference. I'm not being called an employee. So that's why labor laws are not applicable for us. We don't get minimum wages. We don't get any provident fund. We are not like any employee. Any employee benefit is not given to us. So our lives will change. So he told that we are called as partners, but we are not even given basic rights of an employee. So to change their lives, it will be only like when they treat us their employees. So he told that please, you treat us as your employees. We are just an IDs and not human in their eyes. So he told that at least consider us to be human beings, right? They have no benefits. Every risk that they are like going to some place, risk involved in their job is covered under no law. So please, it was an emotional call for all the platform workers, and people shared it widely. So this was the example of India. Now coming to Indonesia. I have researched about it, and please correct me if I'm wrong, because you people are more aware of it and you are more knowledgeable than me on this. If I make any mistake, please please correct me. So mixed economy, India is also a mixed economy, and Indonesia as well. That is, both public and private sectors play a role in it. Okay, so similar to India, it is a mixed economy. And very proudly, we can say that it is the only ASEAN nation which is included in G20 nations. Right. Again, a more of service dependent nation. As we have seen that in India, the Cuisinet's hypothesis didn't work well. Similar thing happened in Indonesia. That service sector is actually the one which is playing a major role for employment as well as in GDP share. So when we are discussing India and Indonesia, one thing that came into my mind was Heckscher-Ohlin model. In international economics, there is a theory known as Heckscher-Ohlin theorem, which says that a nation which is capital endowed is relatively abundant in capital. It will export and it will produce more of capital intensive goods, and it will import more of labor intensive goods. And it is vice versa for nations which are endowed or which are rich in labor. And India being the second most populated country in the world, and Indonesia is fourth. So we have a lot of labor, right? So Heckscher-Ohlin model completely stands true for both of these nations, as both of these nations are rich in labor. So it produces more of labor intensive goods. So services sector is playing a major role in both of these nations, and also it is exporting more of labor intensive services. So that is the situation. Growth in the nation has been observed, and much of which is attributable to the fixed term and temporary and contract work in Indonesia. Also, there is a study which I have gone through, which says that the informal sector has grown to a rapid pace that has given rise to precariousness and susceptibility and vulnerability of the employment is seen, okay, in the nation. So these facts are there for Indonesia. So how about the gig work in Indonesia? Being identified as a G20 nation has enforced digitalization at a large and a fast pace. So after being identified as a G20 nation, digitalization was the major issue, and it has been uh, taken to a large and fast pace. So therefore, as digitalization happened, a lot of gigification, that was the term used by Miller, was inevitable to come. Having more of labor becoming digitalized lead to gigification, that is more of gig work coming into action. But government has also taken initiatives that it had set up guidelines to meet the minimum wage standards and combat the ill effects of precariousness and the susceptibility of employees in the informal sector. But there was a check for it, and there was a project known as a Fair Work Project that was done in December 2021, and that assessed 9 of the most used gig work platforms working in the nation. And when it assessed that actually the government had taken initiatives for minimum wages to be paid for well-being of the workers, so does it actually help? Does it actually help, or has it helped the gig workers? But the report found that unfortunately, none of the 9 platforms verified the positive domino effect of the government initiatives. That the government initiatives of minimum wages and other benefits to the workers should be given didn't work well, and the Fair Work Project assessment proved so. And as a result, as employees are not given the basic minimum wages, basic welfare aspects are not seen, so the nation has witnessed a lot of strikes, and complaints from worker sides are very common in Indonesia in gig work. So am I correct? Yes, you guys are over there. Tell me, is it something? Have you observed these facts in your nation?
I think they're still thinking, Farhad, because actually gig work is a new issue in Indonesia, and actually we have Gojek. It's like a delivery partner, and also they have a car and motorcycle who.
There is something I searched: Grab, Gojek. All these apps are there. Yeah.
Yes, they call their worker as the partner. It seems like the tweet from what Seeger? Yes,
India.
In India, yes.
Swiggy,
same phenomenon. Yes, Swiggy, yeah. It's same phenomenon actually. We have Grab, we have Shopee right now, and we have many things, and they call us as the partner, but they don't have any wage standard.
Employee benefit schemes, they are not there.
Yes. So it's same condition.
We are on the same page. India and Indonesia are on the same page, right?
Yes. And right now they just realize that, oh my God, they make us like a stupid human, because yes, they don't have any rights as the employee, right? And right now our government is going, but not going. Our government will wish to have the new policy how to manage our worker, yes, in gig work.
Sure. Thanks for sharing. So now next question that arises, that having so much of like poor quality work, and also not being covered under any labor law in, like, not only in India and Indonesia, even countries like US, the workers have been continuously complaining that they are not covered under any law. They are not given any basic benefit. So out of all this, one question that came into my mind, that can collectivism, can unions play a role for these workers? Okay, so like, can formation of employee unions or trade unions help the welfare, bring about welfare in the life of the gig workers? So this is a question. Very few studies I tried to find out, like research studies on these. So very few studies have been there. And but the big question is that how and where will the union be formed? Because any platform, that is Uber, is based in US and it has its worker in India, right? So how can union work for both India and US workers? Being involved in similar kind of work, but completely different culture, completely different atmosphere, and completely like being far away from each other. So how can unions be formed for such diverse organization who are like working in East and West? So there is a study by Sini et al. In 2022, which has told that the unions need to be at the grassroots levels. Okay, union from among the employees working in that particular nation can help the gig workers. So grassroots level unions who can stay active, who can mobilize, okay, and can form relationship with location based gig workers, because location is something really very like frightening for gig workers. People in US have completely different kind of lifestyle, and people in India may be having different kind. So how can a union play a role for both of these workers? It's not possible. So a separate union at grassroots level for US workers and from India workers from among themselves can play a role. Now, discussing a very famous case of Amazon in US. It is the Amazon is the second largest employer for US workers. Okay, and since like few years, it's certain there has been a debate that should Amazon have a union or not, employee union or not. So from the Amazon's management side, it was tried that no union should be formed. But there were certain workers who came into being and they started like a kind of revolution that no, we need unions who can fight for our rights. Okay. So there was a fight for and against union in USA for Amazon employees. And then it was seen that management was really very like discouraging for formation of unions, and even few mechanists and people who were in favor of unions, some of them were fired from their jobs. And ultimately there was a place where there's Amazon's big warehouse in US, Alabama. There voting took place that should Amazon employees have unions or they should not have it. Now, what happened that openly the management of Amazon, they tried to curb the voice of people who wanted to have union, and they were forced to vote against unions, not forced directly, but indirectly they were forced that not to vote in favor of union. And as a result, people who were for the motion lost, and Alabama voting helped that union, that management was happy that people don't want, they lost. People trying to form unions didn't have the like backing of majority. Majority of the people voted against the unions. But this was because of some pressure from the management. And recently, in last year, I suppose, in New York, again, the voting happened for Amazon employees. And this time, people won, like the union, people in favor of union won. And it was said that majority of workers wanted to have union in Amazon. And also we have seen that Joe Biden has given certain speeches that people should be given full support, because not taking the name of Amazon, but he indirectly targeted Amazon's management by supporting the freedom of choice of workers. He told that none should be forced for not forming the unions, and a freedom of choice should be there. And I would like to share that very, very recently, day before yesterday, there was an article in the New York Times that the Labor Department on Tuesday in US has unveiled a proposal that would make it more likely for millions of janitors, home care workers, construction workers, gig drivers to be classified as employees rather than independent contractors. So there we see that in US, some initiatives are being taken, and this is a report from day before yesterday's newspaper. So maybe in the coming years, we see that the fashion of calling employees as partners or agents will, maybe it is like perished because of like some legal aspect coming out of it. And maybe after developed nations having a say in it, maybe the developing nations follow the same trend, because the same thing happens. Gig workers were into fashion in the developed nation, so similar fashion is followed in the developing nations. So maybe when the law is formed for gig workers in developed nation, maybe the developing nation can also take a lead, and in future maybe they may be called as employees and be covered under social security schemes, labor laws, and we may hope that it happens. So this was it from my side. And also, like, situation is much wider in developing nations, as we have seen the case example of India and Indonesia. What happens is that the majority of the population is not covered under social security schemes. So the people are really at a very vulnerable kind of situation. So in future, we need to have certain laws, certain perspectives that actually covers the gig workers as well. So this was all from my side. Any questions, any discussion, anything anyone wants to share, please, you can come.
Yes, thank you, Farhat. Any question, anyone? Actually, in our university right now is we have the on-site class, so it's like the online. Maybe they like they, yes, they will more happy if we have on-site actually. But we hope that we can invite you directly to come to our university next year. So
sure, I love to do that.
We can talk directly, because in online, yes, everyone shy.
True, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yes,
and I would love to meet you all offline.
Yes, of course. And even in online, I'm very happy to see you. And Farhat, I have one question actually. Once you deliver the material, I'm thinking about the the development of the gig worker itself. I mean, okay, maybe right now everyone love to work in gig work in gig work because they can get the money without the what certain time to I mean like 7 to 5. They have flexible time, and even as you mentioned that the gig worker, they have many weaknesses. Is like they don't have a labor union, they don't have the wage standard, they don't have the health insurance, and many others. But as we know that our society, they need a job, right? So everyone can accept this kind of job. But what do you think, if we imagine next after 5 years or 10 years from this year, I mean from now, what will be happen for this gig worker? It will be better, or they will be eliminated with the new system?
So see, like this was the slide which told that despite having so much of negative aspects, still it is very common, right? It is kind of inevitable choice now. It is bound to happen and we cannot like go back. So like developed nations coming out with certain, as we have discussed that day before yesterday's article in the New York Times has come, that the labor department in US is trying to cover all these gig workers to be termed as employees. So when this is into fashion, maybe in coming years in developing nations like India and Indonesia, we may also have certain legal aspect that classifies a gig worker as an employee. Then maybe it will be helpful for both the parties, like because it has to sustain, right? Anything cannot be for short term. So for sustaining in long term, government has to play its role, the employer has to pay its role. Then only the sound situation can be formed. And yes, we have come to a time that a part-time work, gig work, freelancers will be there, and it has to be there in like future. So yes, covering up them up with legal aspect will actually help and sustain the practice. Somebody has raised the hand.
Yes, Muhammad Rizky Arifandi, please open your mic.
Okay. Thank you, Mbak Sylvie, and thank you, Dr. Fahad, for presenting. I think it is very interesting topic, right? Because as far as I know, India is one of the biggest resources in terms of, IT or high-tech technology. I think
Yeah.
most of director or researcher in um, Indonesian companies, I mean technology companies like Gojek, Grab, or TikTok, and many others always have Indian researchers or data analysts. I think we have to learn from India about that. So I think about my opinion about this topic. Gig workers, I think, is very beneficial for our economics because many of many of people already registered in many platforms like Gojek as a driver or as a partner, etc. But
Yeah.
my question is, do you think that the government of Indonesia particularly need to pay attention? I mean, do they need to highly regulate the the companies or the workers that work in gig economies? Because in our country, in Indonesia, we don't have like strictly regulated about the the rules or the punishment or etc. If you said yes, do you think it is you know very very good or very bad for the workers or for the companies? I think yes, that's the my
So
question. Thank
basically,
you.
your question is that should the regularization and should the gig workers be included in a kind of legal perspective? This is your question?
Yes, it is.
Okay. So yeah, actually, because for a long-term perspective, it has to be done because we have seen that government had taken certain initiatives for minimum wage. Okay, in Indonesia, there was an initiative by government, that there was guidelines issued by the government that yeah, minimum wage should be there for gig workers. But upon like when it was assessed that is it actually being taken place, that are workers being paid the minimum standard wage or not, but it was found that no, it is not being done. So of course government has a role to play in such like exchange of work, and government's role is really crucial, because for sustenance in long term perspective, maybe today you are a young employee, you are ready to work for like any time of the odd time of the day, you have your age allows you, your family allows you. But maybe in 10 to 20 years when gig work is into fashion, then if the similar situation is there that even basic minimum wage is not defined for a gig worker, then will a worker in around his 40s or 50s, will he be ready to work under such situation? I don't think so. They will not work in such like exchange of work. So government has a big role to play to regularize, to come up with various guidelines that are actually being like enforced in this kind of economic setup. Then only in long term there will be like each stakeholder will be benefited out of such exchange of work, right?
Yes, thank you. I think one more, Mbak Sylvie.
Yeah.
In Indonesia, in terms of the salary or the wage, I think most of the gig workers have more salary than the the government salary, or maybe the formal or white collar, So do you think
Blue collar and white collar workers, right?
Yep, they get better salary, they get better payment. Do you think that if they get regularized by the government, do you think is it not is it good for them?
So is it good, please like can you be your voice is really low, I couldn't get your question.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I'm in the middle of the people. Do you think it's the government should highly regularize the until the minimum salary? You get my point? Do you get my point?
Yeah. So Rizky,
Yeah.
yes, should the government give the minimum wage for the gig worker? What do you think?
Yes, because they have already have higher salary than many workers, many type of workers in Indonesia.
So Asna, what exactly is the question? Please, can you let me know?
Yes. So actually, Rizky mentioned that the gig worker already accept higher wage in Indonesia, higher wage than other type of the job, and also
Blue collar jobs. Okay.
yes. And should government give the minimum wage as the regulation to make it to standardize the wage?
Okay. Fine. Got it. So yeah, that is a really like a good question. So yes, what can be done is like government can set up guidelines for the minimum, right? Maximum is not there. At least you have to pay this minimum standard. And of course, if any gig worker is earning more, then that, but yeah, of course, if it is regularized, then maybe the employers will be fixing it. So yeah, there is a dilemma. So that is the actually situation, right? So we have to deal with it. And really, it's really very, very interesting question, that if the government is formulating laws for minimum wages, and if a gig worker is earning more than that, then is it helpful for him or her or not? So, but when looking into the broader angle, right, for government, no one gig worker is not the audience, right? For government, it is entire nation. So for the welfare of entire nation and well-being of entire workforce, maybe they bring in certain guidelines that this has to be the minimum which you have to pay. Because like, if there is no legalization and regulation in India, we have seen that people are like, some people have earned a lot, but also there is no minimum wage, then employers are also taking a lot of advantage of it. So government has to come with initiatives that not the advantage, and people are not leading a vulnerable kind of situation. But yes, it is a kind of like dilemma that the government has to deal. But yes, for a government, it is a broader picture, the welfare of entire like gig economy, not one gig worker. So for the policies should be formulated for the welfare of the entire society, right?
Okay.
thank you very
Any
much, Dr.
feedback,
Farhad.
Mas Rizky?
Yeah, I think it's quite good explanation, considering, you know, other thing that some workers working in, you know, like well, how do you call it, in the internet, they got payment from non the not with the dollar, but with, like, you know, cryptocurrencies or etc. No, it's that's why it's very hard to you know, to regulate or to see the transaction above about between the two companies and the workers. Yes, it's very challenging, I think, to the government to tackle the challenge.
Asna,
Okay, thank you
please,
very much.
his points are really interesting, but voice is really low. I can't understand the question. Please, can you let
No,
me
no,
know?
it's not the question, but
Just,
only
just, just,
for
just
sharing. Yes,
feedback, yes.
yes,
That the government is have difficulties to manage this, because yes, it's a
Yeah,
little bit challenging thing for the
true, true.
government. Yes, but I think actually Farhad and Mas Rizky, that the government should know before the Gojek and Grab start in Indonesia, right? They should manage it before. They just realized that the bad thing happened after several years. They have it, they exist in Indonesia. My question right now is why the government didn't think before they give the license for the Gojek and Grab in operating.
Exactly.
Yes, after already happened, after most of our society working in the Gojek or in the Grab, the government just think that it's bad. Why like this, and why like this, why they don't manage since they want to start, right?
Exactly.
It's like
Same, you know, similar situation is there in India, that when we talk about platform workers, even as he mentioned, your student, that India has a lot of like IT employees who are globally present, right? What happened for employment generation, Indian government formed like special economic zones, where a lot of relaxation was given to the employers in terms of labor laws. They need not comply with any law, and just for the sake of employment they were given all relaxations. So it was government who gave all relaxations, right? So now it is the government who has to play a role for welfare of the workers as well. As you mentioned, that why did they give the license?
Yes, and the government should decide something very fast today just to protect our worker, because you know, Farhad, in here, our Gojek driver, they have a target for every day. They have to collect many points to get the wage, and for me, it's not fair. It's not kind of a fairness from the company, between the company and the worker itself. So yeah, the government should intervene very soon to protect our worker and also to protect our economic in macro level.
Exactly. True. Totally, like I'm with your point, and I'm really convinced, literally.
Yeah. Okay, anyone want to share the experience or want to share the condition of in your town, or maybe you have friend who work in the Gojek?
Yeah.
Yes, and actually, Farhad, the one thing I would like to deliver to you and also all the participants here, that the Gojek itself or the Grab, they don't have the zone. So everyone from from other town, they can join. To, for example, right now I'm in Malang, right? And I'm in Malang, and other town or other cities people, they can come to Malang and work in the Gojek in Malang, and they will grab our customer in Malang, right? So they will like very crowded between the people who live in Malang and other people who come from other town, and they come to Malang to work in Grab or Gojek. But our customer is very limited because we are in small town.
Exactly.
So it's like, yes, I'm so sad seeing that phenomenon actually. But if any additional information, Farhad, you want to deliver or want to share, or we can end up.
As you had mentioned, just a small point, there is a fruit delivery agent pic that was really viral in India. A person who was carrying, I don't know how many kilos on his back just for a delivery. So these kind of pictures are always visible in India as well. So yes, government has to play a role in this.
Yeah. So actually, we have to work together, government and also the company itself. I mean,
exactly. Every stakeholder has to play the role. True.
Yes, but the thing we have to make sure that our industry, I mean Gojek, Grab, and what in India, they should realize without the government giving the interference, they should realize how to protect their worker, not to do like a partner but nothing given to the worker,
calling them partners and not giving them any benefit. That is the
yeah. So it's like a funny things. Well, Farhad, thank you for your time for today, for giving us the sharing very great experience that you gave to us, and also for the master student, PSD, and also bachelor student. I think this is the new thing for you, and it is good for you if you want to make it as the thesis or final thesis in your bachelor study. And thank you so much, Farhad, for the time, and we hope we can continue this topic in the research together because it's very hot one.
Sure.
Yes, and thank you for all participants who joined this class, and don't forget to fill the attendance form. Then I hope we can invite you in the next session, and we can do the very fruitful discussion. Before that, can we take a photo together?
Sure.
Okay, Mas Girin, help me to take photo. Yes, Mas Girin. or I can take a photo. Well, okay, Farhad, and anyone, can you open the camera and we can take a photo and let us see your very sweet smile, everyone. Mas Girin's coming, so Mas Girin will help us to take a photo, screen photo. So everyone, please open the camera. We give our best smile. Okay, Mas Girin, go. We are ready.
Okay, Mbak. I'll take the picture ya. On my 3, 2, 1. Okay.
Okay, thank you so much, Mas Girin, for helping us. And thank you, Farhad, and all participants. We hope we can do discussion in the next session. And stay healthy, Farhad, and stay happy and stay beautiful as always. Thank you, everyone, and see you. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you. Thank you so much, everyone. And thank you, Sylvie. It was
My
pleasure joining you people. Thank you so much.
Thank you.